VP is, to my right, Jeff Bradley. Second VP, Dan Biles. Where's Dan? Our secretary, Frank Chen. Our treasurer, Donna Mann. Arrangements co-chair, we have David Wang and Jim Frawley. Jim at the back. Communications co-chair, Pat Cathcart and Dick Pearson. Membership co-chair, we have Janet Morgan and Kathy Matsumoto. Social co-chair, David Studville and Soma Warner. And I do not see Pete, our immediate past president. Pete is not here tonight. And I just want to mention behind the scene, I have our past president, Al Bo, to help with the bookkeeping. Where's Al? Al? Thank you, Al. And also Kim Halkett, she is the one that maintains our website. So. Next, I will introduce the City Club past presidents. And I'll skip Pete. So go back in time, 2011, Janice Lieberman. Janice. 2010, Elbow. 2009, Kent Halkett. Is Kent here? No. 2006, Mort Mortimer. Okay, and I'll skip John Morris, and I'll get back to him. You are in trouble. 2004, Tom Sandley. Tom. 2003, Wally Roswell. 2002, Alan Young. Okay, he was here earlier. 2001, Eugene Sun. 1998, Bill Berry. 96, Chuck Adams. 95, Ken Riley. 94, Bill Payne. Is our Mayor Dick Ward still here? 89? Okay. Good. Let me get back to the 2004, John Morris. Can you please stand? Hold on. I have mentioned a few times that our past presidents continue to find ways to serve the club and to our community. John is a good example in terms of serving our community. And I'm happy to let you know that John has just been named the Honorary Paul Harris Fellows by the Rotary Club of San Marino. So congratulations, John. We are very proud of you. Okay, moving on, let me introduce the San Marino City officials and city representatives. Starting with the City Council, our Mayor, Dick Ward. Our Vice Mayor, Dennis Neer. Council Member, Eugene Sun. Okay. City Manager John Schaefer. John. Planning and Building Director David Sadania. David. Our Police Chief Tim Harrigan. And our own board member, Fire Chief Jim Frawley. Jim. Is our superintendent here tonight? Lauren Kleinrock? No? Okay, but our San Marino High School Athletic Director, Andrew Gale, is here. Andrew? Okay, and we are well attended by other groups. And here they are, the Chamber of Commerce President, Joanna Jimenez. With the Chamber, we also have Rita Rodriguez. Rita? The Chinese Club of San Marino President, Calvin Lowe. And I know Calvin has two board members with us tonight. Calvin, can you introduce them?
Abby and Ian Wong, activity chairs.
Thank you. Okay, San Marino Historical Society President, again, John Morris. San Marino Rotary Club President, Isaac Hung. Is the official centennial photographer here, Bill Yablon?
He wasn't able to come.
Oh.
Stephen Hawkins.
Oh, yeah, okay, Caltech. Okay, also a special welcome. We have a visiting scholar at the Huntington Library, and she's from the UK, Nadini Das. Dennis, you want to say a few things on, introduce her a little bit?
Well, with Steve Driver here and Steve Himgill, Director of Research, we bring in almost 2,000 scholars a year to do research at the Huntington. We're fortunate to have a little guest room that we have some of them stay with us. Turns out that Dot is a professor at the University of Liverpool. She's not too smart. She got her undergraduate degree at Oxford and a PhD at Cambridge. What can you say? and so on. It's really a pleasure. Nandini is spending this time with our neighbor, Terry Mazer, who is across the street from us. This having scholars stay with you for a short period of time really is a wonderful experience, and if anybody would like to do that, be in touch with the Huntington. It's just wonderful.
Thank you, Dennis. Welcome. So moving on to club business, we are excited and very proud to be part of the centennial celebration. San Marino's big birthday is coming up in 9 days on the April 25th, next Thursday. Let me bring up the Centennial Oversight Committee Chair, Liz Neer, to tell us some upcoming centennial events.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to the City Club for your tremendous support over this centennial year. And on April 25th, 2013, San Marino will be celebrating 100 years since its incorporation. And on your tables or in the mail, you should have received a postcard inviting you to the April 27th celebration Saturday at Lacey Park from 11 to 2. We're going to have game booths. In fact, the City Club has sponsored one called Down the Clown. And we have informational booths, roaming artisans, entertainment, food booths. And then at 1 o'clock, I want to see you all at Lacey Park because we're going to have a all-community panoramic portrait done. and it's going to be staged with props, and we are going to have, I'll have signs made for every organization in town to designate you grouping together with, if you want to be with the City Club, the Rotary Club, or any organization. We're going to have a whole group photos, so make sure you're there. We have still a lot of events yet to come until July 4th. So on your table, you'll find a copy of the Centennial calendar through April through July 4th. And I wanted to highlight a few upcoming events. On Thursday night at the Barth Library, there's the last of the One Book, One City event, and it's the discussion on the book Deary about Julia Childs. So I encourage you all to go. Then on the 20th, we have a couple of events. The San Marino schools will be celebrating their 50 years of arts in the schools, and they're going to have a series of programs and displays. So I encourage you to go to that. And while you're there, you don't want to miss a special free tour and exhibit of the Michael White Adobe. They're going to have a special tour, and there are some brochures. Then, moving on to the following week, April 30th, I'd like Callie Chang to come up and share about the wonderful event that the Chinese Club is doing in celebration of the centennial, and it's a gourmet Chinese food festival. So Callie, would you like to share a little bit about?
Thank you so much, Liz. My name is Kylie Chang, and I am a new member for the City Club. I'm also a new director for the Chinese Club of San Marino, and we're going to squeeze in there to celebrate the centennial. So on Tuesday, April 30th, we're hosting a Centennial Gourmet Food Festival, and we're going to have 5 restaurants, all the local restaurants, really good restaurants, serving food. And you'll see a flyer like this, and also the purple flyers. So we are selling tickets, $50 each. And we are a nonprofit organization. And we're also going to have San Antonio Winery. They're going to be doing some sampling of the wines. So please come. Thank you. I'm sorry. The net proceeds will go to the Huntington Library and also the San Marino schools. Okay, thank you.
And it doesn't end there. Moving on to May 16th, we have the San Marino Chamber having an event also at the Huntington. And I'd like Joanna Jimenez to come and share about that event.
Yes, this is actually our annual evening at the Huntington, and we worked very hard to kind of get this evening going. And actually, you have some great flyers on your table here, and it's going to be a really exciting evening. So please, we welcome everybody to come, and just go on the website for San Marino Chamber of Commerce and turn in your RSVP, and we're gonna have so many good, exciting vendors coming out there. The Huntington Middle School Jazz Band is gonna be playing, and also the San Marino High School also is gonna be performing and showing a glimpse of their musical Hairspray. So it's really exciting, and we really want everybody to come out and just join us and have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Then that weekend, we have a full weekend planned for all of you. Of course, you can't miss the Fireman's Breakfast. And then on Sunday, the 19th of May, we are going to share a joint celebration with the City of Hope. It's also celebrating 100 years. And so we're going to have a special event, at George and Sarah's son's home, and Janet Morgan is going to say a few words about that event.
Thank you, Liz, and I'll keep this really short. And if you've never had a chance to partner with Liz on anything, make sure that you do, because she's the most wonderful person to work on something with. Many of you have probably gotten invitations to our shared centennial events. City of Hope was founded in 1913, so we have a shared centennial. So we're celebrating that in partnership with the City of San Marino with a really fun cooking demo at the Sun's beautiful home. There's a small fee to cover the cost of the event. If you have any questions, if you did not receive an invitation and you'd like to go, please see me and I'll make sure we send one out to you. There's also an emailable version I can get out to people. But it's from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. We're going to feature Dr. Friedman making a short presentation. We have a really fun chef. We'll do a cooking demo with some of our superfoods. Food, drink, should be a great time. And I think you'll see a lot of your friends and neighbors there. Hope you can join us.
Thank you, Janet. And as you look at the calendar, you see many more events. We do still have available spaces for buying bricks, so there's some forms on your table. The dedication of our centennial gift to the city is going to be next Thursday, April 25th at 8 o'clock will be the dedication of the fountain. And we have lots of wonderful merchandise that we have for sale tonight, so come and enjoy, and we'll look forward to seeing you at all these events. Thank you, Andrew.
I do know that Liz really spent countless hours preparing all the centennial events, so let's give her a big... Another community event that we're very proud to be part of is the San Marino Motor Classic on June 9 at the Lacey Park. Their founder and chair, Aaron Weiss, and their treasurer, Dennis Neer, are here tonight. And Aaron, where's Aaron? Would you please come up and tell us a little bit about the car show?
Very good. Thank you. Okay, how many of you have been to the last 2 years' car shows? Wow. Wow, this is great. Okay, so we're speaking to the believers here. Okay, this is the goose that laid the golden egg. There's no question about it. This year the Rotary gave about $30-something thousand to the construction of a soccer field at Stoneman School, and this was as a result of the San Marino Motor Classic. Last year, the check that we gave to the Rotary was about $62,000. I'm not sure that the community realizes that, and that this show is really a major opportunity to not only showcase our community, but also to bring in a lot of money that will do good for the community in terms of improvements and things that need to be done. So I would encourage all of you, number one, you all need to buy tickets, and those are available on the way out. If you just have a lapse, you can go on the internet, buy them there. But don't be the only person on your block not to come, because it's really going to be a fantastic show this year. We expect about 250 cars again. We believe Jay Leno will probably show up for a little bit of time. And there'll be good food and a lot of good fun, just an afternoon in the park. But I want to tell you that the show is really about the community and doing well for the community and showcasing our town. 63 years ago, there was a road race through this little community up north called Pebble Beach. Now you've heard about Pebble Beach. And it was nothing. But 63 years later, you can't rent a hotel room for under $600 a night. You can't get a reservation in a restaurant unless you make it at least 3 months before the show. So in terms of our community, our show is in an embryonic stage. It's only its third year. But with your support, there's a possibility that this could bring big things to the city of San Marino. And I would encourage your support, not only in buying a ticket, maybe ponying up for a VIP ticket. It's the only place in the park you can get a drink. Former Chief Schaefer made that a requirement. If not, we would have had young nymphs serving cocktails throughout the park. We figured there was a reason. But also, if you have a business, to support the event by buying an ad in our program. Last year, the program alone brought $20,000 to the event. To give you an idea about this event, last year we netted, after all of our expenses, $200,000. That's in its second year. In its third year, we hope to exceed that, although probably by the end of the day I'll have no friends left. But this is something I would really encourage the community to get involved in. And again, if you have a business, take out an ad. Not so much for what you're going to receive immediately, but what you'll receive from this event in the future. It's going to be huge. This is our third year. We have 3 more years contract with the city and the park, and I'm going to tell you that every year it is bigger and bigger. After the first year, Auto Week magazine published This Was Pebble Beach South. Most events after 20 years don't clear $50,000. This is absolutely the goose that laid the golden egg for the city of San Marino. It is an incredible event, bigger than the 4th of July. So I would really encourage you, buy tickets, buy an ad. If you have a business, maybe you'd like a booth to sell or promote your goods. I know that Coldwell Banker is going to have a booth there, and there's several other merchants in the area that are going to showcase their wares at the event. If you have some money to kill, and you have a choice tonight, you can give your money to Obama, you can give it to me. And I can tell you that I'm a hell of a lot more fun. But to make a donation as a sponsor, showcase your business, let people know what's going on, would really be appreciated by my committee, but you will get returns in terms of a community exponentially. So this is really a major event that any community can have. And for those of you who hate cars, and that's fine, you can join the ranks of my wife. It's not about the cars. It's about the community and what we can bring to your community to make it bigger and stronger and provide things that we just can't afford normally under the normal course of business. So I again invite all of you to come to the 3rd annual San Marino Motor Classic and support it from the heart. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Aaron. Well, I know the gold price is going down, but this is definitely a free golden egg to the city. And if you want to purchase the car show tickets or have questions about the sponsorship, Donna Man, please stand. She has all the car show tickets. And David Stufield, if you have sponsorship questions, David. And while standing up, would you please come? David is our social co-chair, and he has an announcement about the summer fiesta.
It is my pleasure to let you know that the Summer Fiesta is June 18th at the Old Mill. Same place as last year. It's a wonderful evening. If there's anyone here who has not been to it, just ask someone at your table what it's like. It's great Mexican food at the Old Mill. Please take a look at this on your table and respond to Soma Warna. Soma, would you stand up just a second? She'll be taking this year the RSVP responses, also receiving the checks, and we already have 3 tonight already. So it's a great, great evening. I encourage you to come June 18th. Please put it on your calendar.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, David. Now it's time to introduce the new members, Janet Morgan.
Thank you. We have 6 new members to introduce tonight. And as membership chair, that makes me really, really happy because that means that everybody out there is doing their job and bringing us new members. So I thank you, and I encourage you to continue to bring guests. I think Dan Biles alone has single-handedly increased our roster, as has David Wang, and it's really nice to see the board members bringing guests and then twisting their arms up behind their back, and then they join. So you too could be one of those. Of our 6 new members, I'll introduce them in alphabetical order just to make it easy. When you're introduced, please come up, stand up here so we can all see you, and then David's going to get a picture of you after Andrew gives you your pin. I'll start with William Bill Bell, who I've always known as Mr. Bell because I went to the Gates Salon and had my hair styled by his daughter Vicki for many, many, many years. So I've been a fan for a long time. So Bill owned and ran the Gates Salon in San Marino for 50 years. He looks way too young for that to even be possible. He served 7 years on the board of directors of the San Marino Chamber of Commerce, and he manages properties in the Mission Village Plaza. He's a regular tennis player, which is great for our tennis tournament, and plays here and at his home in the desert. He states he's a proud member of the San Marino community and married to his wife, Susan. Welcome, Bill. And Kylie Chang already introduced herself, but I'll introduce her again. Come on up, one of our new members. Kylie was born in Taiwan and raised and educated in Long Beach. She's lived in San Marino since 1994 and raised 3 children here. She loves deep sea fishing. I found that very interesting. And travel. She's a board member of the Chinese Club of San Marino. Welcome, Kylie. And Louise Cook. Louise, come on up. Louise is a 38-year resident of San Marino. She is a USC graduate, none of those in this room, right? And a real estate educator. She is retired as the VP of Real Estate of the Hawkins Company in Pasadena. She works as a Huntington Library docent and is credited with working to revive the San Marino Neighborhood Watch program. Welcome, Louise. Right now I'm going to work really hard to say this name right because I think it sounds so good. Jan Ketelar. How'd I do, Jan? Did I do okay? No? All right, I tried. It's a beautiful name. Jan's lived in San Marino since July 2011. He's originally from the Netherlands, and that's why I'm having trouble with the name, and works as a self-employed IT and organizational consultant for small businesses. He has an MBA and chemical engineer training. He's married to Jennifer, a California native, and is the father of some Carver kids, according to this application. Welcome. We have so many. This is so exciting. And they all showed up today. James Phelan. James is right there. So James was born in Los Angeles and grew up on the Central Coast. He has a bachelor's degree from University of San Diego and an MBA from UCLA. Some of us are Bruins here and some are both. I call myself a Brojan, so. We have 2 good universities, it's okay. He served in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years and has lived in San Marino since 2006. He's been married to Shauna for 14 years and has 3 children, Mackenzie, Brooke, and Catherine. He works in real estate for the Ratkovich Company. Welcome. Finally, Jeff Reimers. There's Jeff. He said everybody in the room knows him and I didn't have to introduce him, but I will anyway. I met him for the first time tonight. Jeff was born in Pasadena and has an office in San Marino. He is a food safety consultant with, is it ZEP or is it ZEP? ZEP Inc. I'll have to ask him more about that. He plays golf and his hobbies include antique cars, so needless to say, he and Aaron seem to know each other quite well. He has 2 sons, Peter and Mark. wife Lynn, and he's active in the San Marino Community Church as an usher and deacon. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Janet. And these are all the announcements for tonight. Thank you for your patience. And let me have Jeff Fadley to introduce the speaker.
And the glasses. And the glasses, yes. Now you can. Sorry, the font is getting smaller and the arms are getting shorter and I cannot read my own writing. During this San Marino Centennial Year, we have heard much about San Marino's history. Thank you. Did I miss anything else? Okay. I feel like I'm playing the straight man. How much our town has influenced Los Angeles, Southern California, and the country. History is a look back into the past, but history also gives us context to the present and the future. We know about the history of the Huntington Library and Gardens. We know its beauty and reputation. We know of its worldwide reputation. It is a jewel, a cliche that really doesn't do the Huntington justice. But we know that scholars throughout the world know it as the Huntington Library and Gardens in San Marino, California. And I think I can say that. Huntington Library and Gardens is bringing together international scholars to study at the Huntington, to understand history through the library's resources in the subjects of British and American history and literature, Californiana and Western Americana, the history of science, technology, medicine, and printing. David Zeibert, our speaker tonight, is the Avery Director at the Huntington Library and will discuss the work that the library is doing to bring together international scholars with the library's cooperative programs in the art, botanical, and research divisions. Mr. Zeibert graduated summa cum laude from the Wyndham College in Putney, Vermont. He holds a master's in medieval and Renaissance English literature, language and literature, and masters in library and information services, both from Syracuse University. Go Orange. He has served as a rare books librarian in Syracuse, curator of special collections at George Washington University, and head of special collections at UCLA before assuming his duties at the Huntington in March 1996. Please welcome David Zeibert.
Thank you, Jeff. Before I start on my Huntington remarks, I can't pass up the annual Motor Classic. I really enjoyed that. I'm a car buff myself. And it reminds me of a very short story. There was a couple, he was a car collector, and they finally decided to get married. And after they were married, his wife said, "You know, I'm just sort of wondering why you're spending so much time with the cars and the shows and so forth." And he said, "You know, you're beginning to sound like my ex-wife." And she said, "I didn't know you were married before." And he said, "I haven't been." So Aaron and Dennis, I like cars too, but I've also been married for 46 years, so I like my wife. Anyway, Jeff, when I spoke with him, asked me to make some remarks about the Huntington's international relations. And I'll do that, and then I'll make these relatively brief, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. So it's spring, and this is our heaviest visitation period when families and individuals come to admire the many blooming and flowering plants. And many of those people, except perhaps for our own botanical curators, don't realize that the Huntington is a repository of exotic plants. And what they're admiring comes from many varied areas of the world. Most of the 14,000 different varieties of plants are showcased in a dozen principal gardens. While to many, the Huntington is their favorite place to stroll, they may not realize the international collections the Huntington has with both its collections and its programs. So now I'm going to try and introduce you to some of those aspects of the Huntington in all of our areas. Just to continue for a moment, consider the gardens of the plants from nearly every area of the world. Mr. Huntington imported plants to experiment with their cultivation in Southern California. And you may not know that some of the earliest avocado cultivations happened right here. Most of the plants are exotic ornamentals. Luckily, the Huntington acquired the bulk of its collections prior to our modern era, as now there are many nations with restrictions on the removal of rare plant material. They might let you take home a weed, but that's not what we really want. And as there are also as many endangered plants, the Huntington is part of what's known as Project ARC, which has been created to ensure the survival of many species. One aspect of this is our herbarium, a collection of dried plants and seeds that is always in demand by scholars who are studying species and need to see something that does not grow in their area. Another botanical program is the International Succulent Introductions, ISI. This is a plant distribution program of the Huntington's world-renowned desert garden. The ISI program has had a long-standing association with the Huntington since shortly after its inception in 1958. And the program was adopted in its entirety by the Huntington in 1989 and furthers the institution's dedication to aesthetics, education, conservation, and scientific study. The aim of International Succulent Introductions is to propagate and distribute new or rare succulents to collectors, nurseries, and institutions. And in keeping with sound conservation practices and open access, field-collected plants are not sold. We offer only propagated seedlings, grafts, and rooted cuttings to produce under nursery conditions without detriment to wild populations. We also have scholars coming from as far away as Cambridge University and as close as Caltech who are more interested in the genetic nature of plants as we press on with the ongoing project to figure out the genome of many interesting plants and to build up a data bank that helps us understand species and their relationships that extend botanical descriptions into the genetic realm. And the botanical staff itself might be considered another international group in that they participate with study programs in many countries. Jim Folsom, who many of you know, our botanical director, for example, has been advising the Singapore government on a new national garden that they are creating, just to mention one instance. Similarly, in the art division, which is primarily a superb collection of British and American art, you will find more diversity than first meets the eye. If you look closely, there are many objects of French, Italian, Chinese, German, and Spanish origin, Ming vases, wood sculpture, etc. So while our British collection is second to none in the United States, there are many international pieces. And we learned just how many international pieces when the decision was made in the early 1990s to lend and borrow for exhibitions, something that the Huntington had not done heretofore. No sooner had our policy been announced that requests started to come in for loans from Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, Great Britain. We don't always agree to loan because we need to guarantee certain conditions of display. And sometimes the borrowing institution cannot guarantee them. Then there are also a few pictures, such as Pinky and Blue Boy, which we won't loan because our visitors expect to see them when they visit. Now, I also should mention that the library has an art collection, and maybe you didn't know that. But, for example, among our manuscripts, we have an original Michelangelo drawing. And we have many other fine works of art. Our photography collection, for example, numbers almost 1 million items. And while a lot of it is historic and documentary photography, there are many works of art. You may remember about 10 years ago, we did a major show on Edward Weston. And then I hope you remember our more recent show on Los Angeles photography. That show, the more recent one, went to France, Switzerland, and Germany on tour after it was shown at the Huntington. So our art collections from all over the institution are in demand in many nations. The art division also borrows shows. You may also remember the great Constable show that we had here a few years ago from the Tate Gallery. And at the end of this coming September, we will open in the Boone Gallery face-to-face Flanders, Florence, and Renaissance painting with loans from the Uffizi in Florence, the Royal Fine Arts Museum in Antwerp, the Palazzo Bianco Gallery di Strada Nuovo in Genoa, and the National Gallery of Art in London to complement the works in the Huntington collections. Now, in the library division, where I'm director, we don't have quite as robust a lending program as the art division, but we now do borrow and lend. And we've started this since I came in 1996. The art division has already been lending for a few years, but what precipitated our participation was an exhibition at the British Museum of Robert Louis Stevenson books and manuscripts. Every manuscript and first edition of his novels were in that show until you came to the display of Kidnapped. Next to the first printed edition was a simple card that read, "Original manuscript at the Huntington Library, San Marino, California." We weren't there. So if you want to borrow for your own shows, you have to reciprocate. The British Library embarrassment caused us to rethink our policies and to begin to participate in international exhibitions. Now, for example, at the moment, my office is negotiating a set of loans with Mexico and Spain for an exhibition we're preparing on Father Serra for his 300th anniversary, which we will open in mid-August. Our book and paper conservators in the library are nationally renowned, so we've also been asked to help with different international programs in preservation. We completed a program a few years back to train Brazilian, Peruvian, and Chilean conservators in best practices and modern techniques here at the Huntington, which they could take back to their countries and use in their much neglected collections. Similarly, we're negotiating a program to aid the National Archives in preserving manuscripts in the Mexican National Collection in Mexico City, and we've had preliminary talks with for the same program with the National Library in Nanjing. In our research division, scholars, as was noted, come from around the world to participate in our programs. 2 years ago at a conference on the Pacific, we had scholars from China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. At our last conference on global navigation and exploration, there were scholars from Britain, New Zealand, and Australia participating. That conference was one of a number that we've done in partnership with the National Maritime Museum in London. Similarly, as was noted, in our reading room on any given day, you're likely to find scholars from 10 to 20 different nations from around the world. In our forthcoming academic year, 13-14, we had 518 applications for our Huntington Fellowships, 134 of which were scholars from outside the U.S., and 31 of those international scholars have received awards. The countries that will be represented next year in our fellowship program include Belgium, Canada, France, Germany, Israel, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, and the United Kingdom. And our fellowships, though, only represent about 9% of the total number of scholars that we host each year, as Dennis noted, around 2,000, 20% of which come from outside the US. We also have institutional relationships related to our scholarships. We have 4 exchange programs, 3 with Oxford and 1 with Cambridge. At Oxford at Linacre, Lincoln, and Corpus Christi colleges, and at Cambridge, Trinity Hall. And what this is that we send our scholars to them and they send our scholars to us. I had the privilege of being at Lincoln College in 2006 for 3 months as a result of that exchange program. We also have, with the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the United Kingdom, 12 fellowships of their scholars coming to us for a 3 to 6 months period. And with the European Renaissance Council and the European Research Council and the Research Executive Agency, a Marie Curie Fellowship, and we have a scholar coming who will actually be with us for 2 years starting this fall. The library shares the broad definition of the art collections in that it features British and American books and manuscripts, yet we have a great many holdings in Italian, German, French, Spanish, Dutch, classical languages as well. And some of these books have wandered the world before they've come to the Huntington. I think the best story to tell you about one of them is probably the best book you know of ours, that is the Gutenberg Bible. It is our most well-known book. You know it was produced in Germany, and our copy lived for several centuries in Central Europe and England before crossing the pond. It was printed between 1450 and 1455, and it's considered to be the first book printed with movable type in the West. It's a marvelous contemporary story. There was a cardinal named Aeneas Piccolomini, who later became Pope Pius I, who actually met Gutenberg and saw the book in production when he was at a conference in Mainz in 1454. In a letter, which was later collected and published in 1485, he wrote to a fellow cardinal in Spain almost immediately, and he wrote, and I'm quoting, translated, of course, into English, "I met that marvelous man and saw his book. The type is clear and large. Your Eminence could read it without glasses." I love that story. When I discovered it through a fellow scholar in seeing Piccolomini's letters in a 15th century book, it really rehumanized that book. It's a great icon of Western printing, and you almost forget that human beings made it because it's such an icon now. But to read Piccolomini's letters and to see he's saying you can read it without your glasses just completely rehumanizes that whole production. So our copy is one of 11 printed on vellum, and which survive today. And there are also 37 copies printed on paper for a total of 48 surviving copies worldwide of an estimated 180 that may have been originally printed. So how did it get to the Huntington? One of the interesting aspects of what we do in studying rare books is to learn who owned them previously. This is called provenance. The illuminations and decorations in the Huntington copy can be firmly localized to northern Saxony, most likely in the university town of Leipzig, although how soon the decorative work was done after its printing is not known. We lack any evidence of the name of the book's first owner, but we have a note in the end paper of the first edition, in a hand, written in Latin, and in English translation it reads, "First part of precious Bible, both parts are worth 100 Rhenish florins." That's all that's written there. And the handwriting is definitely 15th century, but we don't know whose it is. So what happens for the next 200 years is still unknown. We know with certainty the provenance of our Bible from the 17th century forward. Then it was owned by the Nostitch family, a noble Silesian dynasty who traces to 1280. That's as far back as that family goes. But we don't have any documentation of when they acquired it. At the sale and dispersal of some of the books of the Nostitch Library in 1774, the London bookseller George Nicol bought our Gutenberg. Nicol was the bookseller to King George III of our American Revolutionary War notoriety, and I'm going to come back to him a little bit later, George III, I mean. Nicol then sold it much later to Henry Perkins, who was a London brewer, who apparently sold enough beer that he was able to become a serious book collector. Anyway, and that stayed in his family, passing along to an heir named Algernon Perkins, and it was kept until Algernon's death in 1873. Bertram Lord Ashburton bought it at the Perkins estate sale and owned it for the next 25 years. In 1898, the American Robert Hoe bought it at the Ashburnham sale and brought it to America, where it stayed in his collection until his death in 1909, and in 1910, Henry Huntington bought it. He paid $50,000 for it in 1910, and it was the most any book had ever been, most expensive any single book had cost up to then in auction. One of Henry's friends here in California saw this written up in the New York Times, and he quickly wrote a note to Henry and said, "Henry, I didn't know you needed that much religion." Anyway, so just as a, this just went off. Can you? Thank you. So just as a few countries have limitations on the export of their native plants, they now also have native treasures limitations. Mr. Huntington was able to acquire Blue Boy for the art division and English collections such as the Bridgewater Library with the Ellesmere Chaucer in it before these restrictions were put in place, most of them within the past 30 years. So let me end with a second library story about how this has affected collecting in my own time. What I want to talk about is the Townsend family papers. The Townsend family, for 3 centuries, served the kings of England primarily as ministers. And Henry Huntington originally acquired the cream of the collection after the estate duties were established in England in 1914, and families scrambled to sell assets to meet these new taxes. Among the items Mr. Huntington bought was a remarkable handwritten letter by King George III to the then Lord Townsend. This is a letter dated November 19th, 1782. And he's sending Lord Townsend, as his minister, to Paris to negotiate with Benjamin Franklin and other American representatives to end the Revolutionary War. And in this letter, the king writes his instructions to Lord Townsend and why he's going to go along with this treaty at this point. And this is the quote from the letter by King George. "Parliament, having to my astonishment come into the idea of granting independence to North America, has disabled me from longer defending this just right of the kingdom." Now, if you saw the letter, which we have, you would see that King George crossed out the word independence. You can read it, but he's crossed it out. And above it, he's written a separation. So now the instruction reads, "Parliament, to my astonishment, has come into the idea of granting a separation to North America." He can't write independence. It sticks right here in this column, okay? And just think about that for a minute. Suppose he had done that today on his PC in Word, okay? And he highlighted independence and then typed over it a separation. You would never have seen independence. And it's such a crucial part of what we gained in acquiring our independence in the Revolutionary War. And there it is in King George's hand. Parliament has granted independence. No, separation. It's a fabulous letter. All right, so fast forward to the late 1990s, when the rest of the Townsend family archive is put up for sale. 4,000 documents dating from 1600 to 1950. And Mary Robertson, who many of you know, who's our curator of English manuscripts, sees this in an auction catalog, and she says, well, we got all these other Townsend material, let's try for this. In the catalog, and if you've done any auctions, you know that whatever you're buying, the auctioneers will always lowball. So they put a price on the Townsend Family Archive, 20,000 pounds, estimate. We knew with 4,000 documents it was going to go for more than 20,000 pounds. And we happened to coincidentally to have the good fortune to have a donor who had given us a fair amount of money for library acquisitions. And in consulting with some English booksellers who were going to represent us at the sale, who actually looked at the material, we were prepared to go to 100,000 pounds for this collection. So the auction starts. And the auctioneer starts and says, what am I bid? Silence. 20,000 pounds. Do I have 20,000 pounds? And our dealer raises his paddle. 20,000. Do I hear 25? There are no other bids. We got the collection for 20,000 pounds. Okay, that's not the end of the story though. Why weren't there any other bids? Why didn't anybody in England bid on this? These are national treasures. Well, it turned out that, again, coincidentally, you may know that England has a lottery, and they use lottery money to help libraries buy rare materials. They had just bought the second known copy of the first English Bible by William Tyndale from 1525, and they paid £1 million for it. One of 2 copies known in the world. Why are there only 2 copies left? Because the Catholic Church destroyed it. This was the middle of the Reformation. And Tyndale dared to print heretically in the English language from the Latin. So those copies were destroyed. Anyway, that's a whole other story I'll give you another day. But anyway, so the British government had spent all of its money on this Bible, and they had no money to bid on the Townsend papers. So, where are we? Well, the Townsend papers were declared to be national treasures, and they are. So, the British government had 6 months to match the Huntington's bid of 20,000 pounds. Nobody stepped forward to do that. So after 6 months, we continued to negotiate, and we finally got what's known as an export license. And the conditions of our bringing the Townsend family papers to the Huntington were that we were to microfilm the collection once a year and return the microfilm to the British Library so that there would be a copy of the archive still in England. And that's what we did, and that's how we got the Townsend family papers. Well, I could go on. I want you to continue to think of the Huntington as your local cultural institution, but please keep in mind that while we're embedded in San Marino, we have a very long reach to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
I'd like to open it up for questions.
Yes.
I know that Google is talking to libraries in Europe about digitalizing old books. Are there such requests to the Huntington Library?
The question is, Google has been talking to libraries both in America and in Europe about digitizing collections, and have we been approached? Specifically by Google, no, but it's a question I get all the time. What are we doing to digitize our collections? Some of you may have been at my Founders Day talk where I talked about this at length and what we are doing, which is basically trying to digitize material that's in high demand by scholars, either to preserve the originals or to make them more widely available. But what I said in this talk is that it's extraordinarily expensive and time-consuming to actually do that work, and I gave some examples of just how expensive and time-consuming. To date, out of the 9 million items in the Huntington collection, we've digitized about 130,000 of them, which sounds like a lot, but it's a drop in the bucket. If you want to hear my talk at length, it's actually on iTunes U. And if you go to the Huntington website, down near the bottom of it, you'll see a wonderful picture of me and a link to that if you want to hear the whole talk. But we have a project going right now with a commercial vendor to digitize some of our 19th century history of science books. And we have 5 camera operators going all day long with machines that actually turn pages. And that's about as fast as we can go without just actually destroying books. In 5 months, we will do about 400 books with 5 camera operators. And at the rate that they can do, and again, this is doing it without destroying the books. There's some places where they chop the spines off books, they put them on a feeder scanner, and they shoot them through, and it can go faster, but you don't have the original left. We're not going to do that to the Gutenberg Bible or anything else at Huntington. So we did an estimate based on what this commercial company, the speed at which they can go without destroying the books. We have about 800,000 printed books out of the 9 million items in the Huntington collection. And were we to do all of them, I think the estimate was it would take 66 years, and it would cost about $100 million in labor. It's not the technology, it's the labor, okay? So are we digitizing everything at the Huntington? No. Because there's not enough money. And there's not enough demand either. Yes, Billy.
David, I'm here because my son, Bill Youngblood, cannot be here tonight.
And I owe him a phone call.
You are also involved in a Centennial project.
That's correct.
And some of this ties in to the other things that you have spoken about. You are archiving all the photos that Bill and Terry are doing. And they aren't just events with people. They're how things are done. You mentioned the car show and the fact that the sod is going down now thanks to your participation. Well, the pictures of sod being laid at Stoneman School is a technique that probably won't be around in 20 years. There'll be another way it was done. He also took pictures of laying the tiles and the fountain in front of City Hall. It won't be done that way, probably in 10 years, 20 years, and it's a technique of how things are done in our time that is going to be archived at the library.
That's correct. Did you all hear Billy? Because I do owe Bill a phone call. I was away when he called me, but I had arranged with him to archive everything at the Huntington that he's photographing. And of course, I also had the privilege of working with Ave Bortz, Judith Carter, and the committee that produced the Centennial book. We provided a lot of the photographs for that, and all of that is going to be archived as well. I hope you all also get to see the show that we have up right now called Cultivating California, which is about the first families of San Marino. That's on display right now at the Huntington. There was a question over here. Yes?
I understand that one time you had the Qumran, the only copy of the Dead Sea Scrolls located at the Huntington?
That's correct. We had photographic copies of it. Again, it's a bit of a long story, but the Huntington photographer, chief photographer at the time, this was about, I want to say about 25 years ago, before my time as director, was hired by Elizabeth Bechtel to go over to Jerusalem and photograph the Dead Sea Scrolls. And my predecessor, the late Bill Moffett, decided to make those photographs publicly available to scholars, which sort of broke the cartel in Jerusalem for who could actually have access to the originals. Bill decided to do this and you know, through open access for scholarly purposes, but it was because a Huntington photographer did go to Jerusalem and photograph them. We subsequently transferred those photographs to Claremont Colleges to the, it's in the graduate school, the Ancient Biblical Manuscript Center, where they're more appropriately used. They were a little bit out of scope for us in terms of what we collect, but our connection was that our photographer did the photography. Okay. Are we done? It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I would love to
I asked about the English Bible, and he said it's a long story. So
Have me back.
it will be for another day. Now that I have my collar straight and I don't need my glasses anymore. Oh, sir.
Sir.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the City Club, we'd like to present you with this as a token of our appreciation for your talk tonight. Thank you very much.
So this will conclude tonight's program. And remember, June 27, Saturday morning at Lacey Park. I want to see all of you there. April, what did I say? April, next Saturday. I'll see you in May.